one of those nights.
Yeah, that's the way it always goes. Well, we're gonna jump right in. I do not have the physical copy, but let's pretend I'm holding the book right here. Do you have it?
I do.
Okay,
I do actually.
here we
It's
go.
over here.
There it is.
There it is.
So
It's the illustrated version of
I
it.
love
So
it. I love all the pink.
yeah, this one, it was just it came out really, really cute. I just love how the illustrator did it. It came out really cute.
Do you like what's your process for commissioning the illustrated covers?
So I work with a really amazing illustrator. Her name is Sarah Jane. She is just so talented and easy to work with, like really nice. So I kind of like give her these, I tell her about the book and I kind of like, like I kind of have this idea, but like you also kind of run with it and see where like, because I'm not a visually creative person. So I always tend to defer to people who are better at that stuff than I am. And she comes up with these like really incredible designs and they're just so much fun. I never used to be an illustrated cover person, but I'm like falling so in love with them. So it's
Yeah,
fun.
they're a lot of fun. I love seeing different, what people come up with.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, before we start talking about the book, I would love for you to just tell us a little bit about you and how you got to where you are currently as an author.
Sure. So I started publishing like I think it's a little more than 9 years now. I think the end of January was 9 years. And I had sort of a dubious start. I just kind of was like, oh, I wrote a book, print, publish. Not a smart way to do it. So yeah, it was a very trial by fire and a very steep learning curve, very fast. But yeah, I mean, it sort of started once I got to like 2019, things sort of started falling more into place where kind of knew what I liked to write. I knew what I wanted to write. I sort of had more direction. And then since then, I've just kind of been going full steam ahead. I write a lot of medical romances, so that seems to be my wheelhouse and my where I like to live. So
I love that. Well, why don't you give us a spoiler-free-ish synopsis of this book, Undeniably Enemies?
so it's Ren Fritz, who is a billionaire heiress, sort of like she's like sort of I guess one of the princesses of this very famous billionaire family from Boston. Jack Kincaid is an emergency room doctor. Both have had sort of difficult pasts, and Jack goes to this, he's living in LA at the time, he goes to this A-list celebrity Halloween party with masked, and he ends up picking up this random drink, and he learns from this beautiful Cinderella who comes up to him and explains it that the drink is called Till Death Do Us Part, and I have it on the cover. They end up sharing this drink, and this drink has a bit of a lore to it, and it's, one sip with somebody and you end up in a torrid affair with them, drink like half of it and you'll fall in love, and if you finish it, it's till death do you part. They end up finishing it, and then they end up having this torrid affair. But he finds out very brutally that Ren is a virgin, and she didn't want him to know, but then like he sort of is, oh my gosh, the masks come off, and then he also discovers that it's his best friend's much younger sister that he's known his entire life. So that was sort of a moment. He doesn't stop, but they don't necessarily Jack doesn't make a lot of good decisions early in the book. He's sort of a wounded dude, and he does not do some things the right way, and they end up hating each other. And so 5 years later, they're now both living in Boston, and Jack is an emergency room attending physician. Ren is a medical student about to start her ER rotation, and Jack is now her boss. That's sort of where it all leads.
And then you get an adventure for
And
sure.
an adventure. Yes.
Where did you get the inspiration for their story?
So I hadn't written a true enemies to lovers in a while. I hadn't done a full enemies to lovers in this series. There were some other characters that I guess kind of butted heads, but I really was excited to write a true enemies to lovers where both people don't like the other, and where that can lead. So um, I was really excited to do that. I knew that they were going to be that sort of couple with each other going in. The rest of it sort of fell into place as I was writing it.
I love that. So, do you outline a lot, or is it kind of as it comes to you?
I'm very much a pantser. I go in. That's like mostly true. So I go in with like a basic idea of what I want the tropes to be, what I would like them to be. Sort of, there's some rough. Like I have a general idea of the characters, what they're gonna be like, but I don't usually plot out a story. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I have this like thing building in my head, and I like it just all comes out really well, but most of the time it doesn't. So most of the time I kind of like have this really rough sketch, and then I just go in and write it and see where it takes me.
So you mentioned before that they're a part of like Ren specifically is a part of a bigger family.
Yes.
So they are a part of like this larger universe that you've created. I'm curious to know what it's like revisiting those kinds of worlds with different characters and like changing the dynamics around.
It's fun. It's like this is a second gen of three series combined, so it's a lot of characters. Um, it's like sometimes like it can be sort of overwhelming, like to like try to like piece all the things back together in my head, but it's great. It's so much fun to write them and to just like be in this world, and I just feel like I know all these characters so well by this point that like just getting to write their stories is just really like it. I love this world. I just love writing them. So
Well, and I found this one really great because you don't have to read the other series to enjoy this story. So,
yeah, I really try with all of my books, even though they are, like you said, they are part of a larger world, and this is an interconnected standalone, but I do try to make them standalones. It's why, like I have a family tree at the front for people who are like, wait, who is that? But mostly I really do focus that on the couple and not so much. And I mean, there are accessory characters, but I really try to focus on the character and make the characters and make it so that people can read this as a complete standalone and jump in wherever they end up jumping in.
what is your approach to writing multiple points of view?
Um, it's not that hard for me. I mean, I guess, like, I think I've only written like two books that are single point of view, and I don't even think either of them are like for sale anymore. But it's just what I do now. So I love writing both of their point of views. Like, and I almost end up alternating chapters very frequently. Like it'll be hers, his. And I kind of like playing with that dynamic where something can happen and we know something as the reader, and then you flip to the next chapter and it's from like his point of view and he doesn't know what's going on, but we do, kind of thing. And I love playing with that dynamic a lot. So it's just so much fun to be in both of their heads and build um, tension and dynamic between them that sometimes we know more than they do.
Yes, I always love that part of the story where you're like, I know what's going to happen, I know what's going on, and there's so much tension because they don't.
Yes, they have no clue what's going on, but it's like we know, and then it's like we get on the edge of our seat waiting for them to find out, and that's always been one of my favorite things to read. So writing it is equally as fun.
Well, you mentioned a little bit that Jack is kind of like he's got a complex personality, especially in the beginning. And then we do know that Ren has been through some stuff. So both of them have difficult backstories, and I would love to know a little bit more about how you decided what those were going to be.
So it's, I mean, I guess it's really not a spoiler because it's pretty out there. So Jack has just a lot of disappointment in his life. Like a lot of dashed hopes and dreams that didn't really come to fruition. And like, just some things kind of kept hitting him back to back to back. And so he's a little jaded, maybe a little bitter with that. Ren is not had good luck with men at all. She sort of had a couple bad situations. Like one was in college, and then she had a boyfriend that she was dating, and he did not turn out to be a good guy. And so she had physical stuff with him. He attacks her basically. So, and she's a survivor of that. So we're about 2 years post her being attacked by her ex, and she's living with a lot of PTSD and even some OCD and some things that sort of give her a sense of control and um, kind of get her through her days. So I wanted, really Ren especially, like I said, she's sort of like this Fritz princess. She's a billionaire heiress. She's part of this really large, amazing family, but I really wanted to test her, I guess, and but also show that um like anybody can have these things happen to them, and that the notion of perfection is an illusion, and that some people smile through it and look amazing and glamorous where the reality is they're not. So I really liked doing that with her because I felt like that was just such an important note, I guess, for how the world really is.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I was going to ask about her was just like, she's independent, she's motivated, she's good at everything she tries, but
Mhm.
she does live with PTSD, anxiety, and kind of understanding like why that's such an important thing to showcase. And it sounds like it's because everyone has things we don't know about.
Yeah, and you know what? Like we all have things that we've survived, some worse than others, unfortunately, but um she's a fighter, and I felt like that. um I always like showing really strong women, but also women who are still human, women who still aren't perfect, because none of us are. And I feel like we um tend to put a lot of stress and strain on ourselves to be that, when the reality is we're not. And so I feel like, but you can also be this really strong person and kick butt at your entire life and do all these amazing things, but still have things that you're working through, still have vulnerabilities that are a true part of who you are. So I like showing the dual sides of people, especially heroines, because I feel like as readers we're really hard on our female characters, so hard. So I like showing that they're still human, even though they're these strong, kick-ass women.
How do you go about writing such heavy topics with like just a sensitivity and care while also like keeping, readers kind of happy and into the story?
Um, I mean, so with this one in particular, I have amazing betas. One of them is on right now. Hi, Kelly. But I do have, I write stuff, and sometimes I think it's going to read a certain way, and then sometimes somebody will come back and be like, now you need to change that. And that was sort of the case with some scenes in this one. I did end up making some adjustments to make them more sensitive and aware and not so hard pushing. So that is a really important part of it, is having readers help with that side of things. Um, but I mean, I have a medical background. So for me, I've seen a lot of things with patients. And so and part of that training is we also get sensitivity training and education, and so all of that stuff. So a lot of that does stem from my background.
That's great. Do you find that in the process when you're sending it out to beta readers? Like, is it ever hard for you to take that feedback? Or are you ever like, oh no, I don't want to do that? Or is it kind of just like, yeah, that's what they're there for?
Well, so some it depends on what it is. Sometimes I won't change something. If it's a really specific plot point, um, then I'm at like in Mason's book, like Undeniably Married was a really good example of that. There was something that um I didn't want to change and I wasn't going to change it and I knew I wasn't going to change it and they were like, "Can you change it?" And I was like, "No, I'm not changing that." But if it's about more content, then like if certain, I mean, I'm fine with taking the criticism and like that's what they're there for. And I ultimately my goal is to make each book as good as I can make it, as each story and set of characters. And so, especially with certain things that are sensitive, like you have to take that feedback and you need to acknowledge it and go through it. So, to me, that's just part of the process, and I don't have any issues with that. So if there's something that I'm hard line on, sometimes I'll stick to it and just be like, nope, not changing it. So it just depends.
So I know that you already mentioned that you're less of a plotter, more of a pantser, but how much, like with that style of writing, how much did this book change from conception to final version?
This one was pretty straightforward. I knew going in that she was going to be a medical student. I knew there was going to be an age gap. That they have a 10-year age gap. Like some of these things were already there, like already blueprinted out from previous books in the series and just who the characters were. I didn't initially plan for them to be neighbors. They end up neighbors. I didn't really plan that. I was kind of just going to have them like floating through, and I was like, no, I'm going to add some more stuff to it. That they are sort of texting people with each other, her not knowing, him knowing. Originally, I had not planned that. Originally, I was going to have them both not know who the other was, but that didn't really, it just didn't write well. It didn't work well. So, yeah, I mean, like, but the majority of it, like, I kind of knew going in and then just kind of weaved it through and made corrections where corrections were needed as I went through it.
If readers could only take away one thing from this story, what would you want that to be?
Um, Yikes, what would one thing? I guess it's probably a really true enemies to lovers. Like, we read a lot of enemies to lovers, and it's like he really likes her and she doesn't like him, or it kind of fizzles out pretty quickly. They really don't like each other for like almost 2/3 of the book. So, um, and I feel like, but with that, you get this really strong, fiery connection, especially when they do end up together. Like when they end up together, their connection, their bond, the way that they are with each other is, I feel like, stronger for that. So I guess that's probably what I would say. Probably
I
not a great answer, but we'll go with it.
No, I think that's great. I think it's, I mean, I agree with you. It's, sometimes you get sold an enemies to lovers and you're like, they're not enemies. They just are like annoyed with each other. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
helpful to know. Um, I would love before you go for you to just kind of give us what advice you would have for aspiring authors or new writers.
I guess I would say be okay with your mistakes because you will make them. I made tons of mistakes, tons of mistakes. And learn to take the criticism because it's important and just keep writing. Like like I feel like especially like new writers, like even like everybody, we get imposter syndrome and it can be very daunting and sometimes crippling to writing. But you kind of have to push through the bad to get to the good, I guess is probably what I would say.
Yeah, that's such a good message. I'm glad that you shared that with us. Before you go, Can you tell us what's next? I don't want to rush you because like this just came out and obviously we want to make space to enjoy it, but what is next for you?
Yeah, so the next book is going to be Undeniably Unexpected. It's going to come out, right now I have it on Amazon for, I think, sometime in August. It's going to come out in July. And, oh, hi, Linda. Sorry, I just saw that pop up. Um, and so it's going to come out sometime in July. I don't have a firm date on that, but I'm thinking middle-ish of July. And it is Loomis and Keegan's book. He is a movie star. He's best friends with Tinsley, who's another character. She was the heroine in Undeniably Infatuated. And so he's this British bad boy, tatted up movie star, and she's this OBGYN, curvy, sort of nerdy, good girlish person. And there's a lot that goes on with it, but I can say that like the two of the bigger tropes is that he's a single dad and they are in a fake relationship. So, but that's coming out
Two
this
of my
summer.
favorites. I
Yeah.
love that. And how many books will this series have?
This will have 7 books in this series. So it's going to end with Vander's book. And then I have planned for 2026, because there are other characters from the previous series who don't have children as a next gen yet. So there will be another set of this sort of thing. So, and that will start next year.
That's a lot of fun. You're going to be very busy.
Yes. Yes. I don't know how to let go of this world yet. So
Well, we're excited to keep going with you. Thank you again so
you're
much for joining me.
welcome.
It's been really fun and it went so quickly.
It did, I know. It always does. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's always so much fun to do these things, and I love chatting with you. So thank you.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Undeniably Enemies is available now, so you should read it. And we'll see you next time. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
sounds good. Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.